What's up? It's Xavion Alford, safety at Arizona State University, and you're listening to the Draft Network.
Look at these guys. They A+ work so far. ASU, by far and away, the best guys that I've had do this. I haven't had 3 for 3 at any point.
Appreciate it.
It looks like Kenny Dillingham might have something going here.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, he has the media at practice out a lot. They talk to us a lot, so it kind of gets us ready for the next level. That media training to get it each and every week, especially throughout the season. It's definitely, something that people take for granted, going toward the next level. So
look at Coach Dillingham getting a shout out. I didn't even have to ask, and he's already giving Coach some love. I like that. Well, let's talk about your time at ASU. I've asked every guy this question, and I like to see the look on your face when you think back to your plays that you had. If you were sending one play to the NFL, right, to showcase the type of ball player that you are, what's that one play, your best play from your time at ASU?
I would say the interception I had versus Texas State. It was a tie game, 4-minute drill. They had the ball, kind of trying to milk the clock, and Texas State was a pretty tempo team. They went kind of fast, so no one was pretty much set. But I had my eyes locked on the quarterback, seen him staring across the field. He threw the deep ball up to the outside receiver, threw a post ball. Then, I go hash the numbers, pick the ball out. So I would just say, a playmaker, a guy that makes plays, in the brightest moments, a guy that's going to always be ready, and especially being, a safety, last line of defense, having everybody's back, being reliable. So.
Talk to me about the environment here in Tempe, because it's something that Coach Dillingham's worked to kind of build up over his time. What's it like playing in front of that home crowd? Because it's pretty rowdy to have people stand in the sun all day waiting for you.
Yeah, I could say from when I first got here until now, we have a saying, activate the valley. We definitely did that. I think we're the only program ever in college football to have a field storming twice in one game, so I feel like that kind of explains, kind of what we have here in Tempe, how we go out and play hard for the fans, how we love the community. It's just a blessing playing in that stadium, playing in Mountain America, and for us to get it rocking, it's a great feeling.
Activate the valley. It's definitely something that's stuck here with Coach Dillingham. What are you going to miss most about Tempe? What's the thing that you're going to miss as you go on into your career?
Just the community and my teammates, just everybody that just, wears maroon and gold, reps the pitchfork, reps Sparky. It's a great place here. It's a great community. You're out, normal places, people always come up to you, you're always, people are always trying to find ways to, help you out in this community, vice versa. We're always trying to find ways to get out and help the community. But, it's bigger than football here. It's a family, once you put on this uniform, it's, we are Sunday for life. That's what we like to say. And I think that stands true. Most programs, to some people might not be like that, but I could definitely say that once you come here, you're a Sunday for life.
Yeah, that's Coach Dillingham, being a guy that grew up here, really understands what it means to play here and be a part of Sun Devil Nation. Talk to me about Coach Dillingham. What is something that he gave you, whether that's a piece of advice or something he screamed at you maybe at some point? What's something that he said to you that's going to stick with you as you go on to your pro career?
Really just being a professional, how he manages, all the media, all the bright lights, just how he manages, his name, how he comes to work every day, how he's consistent. Every time you see him on camera, off camera, you meet him in public, you meet him in private, he's always the same person. So that's kind of, something I pride myself in, being consistent as a football player and as a person, being a good person. He preaches, having good people here in the community and on our team. So that's definitely something that, is different from most coaches, just preaching being a good person and, carrying that on throughout life. It's bigger than football, but obviously, when you step on the green, having that mindset to, turn that dog mentality on. So.
Can confirm I met Kenny Dillingham at a Target, and he was exactly how he was at the post-game press conference. Literally no different. I was like, this man is at 100 all the time. Shopping at Target, on the sidelines, doesn't matter. Coach Dillingham is consistent, and that I will always take. I will always take consistency. But when we describe an ASU football player, what does it mean to play for ASU? How would you describe players that play here?
I would say it's an honor. I would literally say it's an honor, So some people, we might not be the biggest school, we might not be the school that get the most love, but like I said, it's a community here, Once you put that uniform on here, like I said, you're a Sun Devil for life, We definitely, we won a lot of meaningful games here. We take pride in that. having a college football playoff appearance, first year that it's in, we definitely take pride in that. We just take pride on playing hard, and that's one thing that we're gonna do, especially when you come to Tempe or we come to your town. We're gonna play hard every single snap to the whistle, and we're gonna definitely make you earn it. So that's what I would say.
Make you earn it. Make you earn it. That's definitely something you want to hear from a football player. Let's talk about just this day overall, right? You're here. This is part of the process. This is checking a box. This is a part of the draft process. What did you want to go out and show scouts today on the field?
Just that. I'm a dynamic guy, that, no matter what the job is, I can get the job done. Whether it's running the 40, whether it's 5-10-5, whether it's showing how smooth I am in position drills, whether it's, showing what I can do on the bench press, vert, showing how explosive I am, and just, especially days like this, it's very attentive, and it's just a lot. It's asked a lot of you. But, no matter the task, I feel like I'm a guy that, can step in and get it done. So that's all I wanted to prove today to the scouts, really, that, a day like this, I can step up to the challenge, rise above the challenge, not just, step up to it and check a box, just be excellent at what I'm doing. So
that's what it needs. That's what you need in the NFL. So let's talk about the NFL and this transition now from here to there. Us at the Draft Network, we write up scouting reports. We watch you guys tape and we write up reports. If you were going to write a report about yourself, what would that scouting report read? What are your best traits on the football field?
First, I would say a guy that, that beats adversity, no matter what it is, no matter the play, good play, bad play, a guy that's consistent, a guy that's gonna do his job every single play, a playmaker, a guy that's just dynamic, whether it's in a passing game, whether it's in the running game, whether it's in the blitzing game, whether it's communicating, whether it's being there for his teammates, sometimes there's safety too, you might not make every single play, it might be one or two plays that you have to make. So a guy that can stay focused all the time, have tight knit focus, just a guy that could be a program changer. I would say I'm a leader. I would say, I like to lead vocally and by example, so, I'm just a guy that, whatever I say, I feel like, I'm confident enough to back it up on and off the field. So, yeah.
That's a pretty damn good scouting report.
Yeah.
That's a pretty damn good scouting report. I like the thoroughness of the scouting report. If you were going to give yourself an NFL comp, who is that NFL comp and why?
I would say Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's always been my favorite player. Growing up, I actually met him, throughout the recruiting process, things like that. But I definitely, took parts of his game, how versatile he is, how he's a leader, just how he is as a tackler, how he is as a person. Whenever you see him on the field, off the field, he's just a guy that's about his business. So he's definitely a guy. I actually wore 29 because he did too my sophomore year. So he's just a guy that that I've looked up to. I've tried to mimic some of the plays he had and stuff like that. But I would definitely say Minkah Fitzpatrick.
It's a pretty good comp. It's a pretty good comp. It's somebody you definitely would like to live up to in your NFL career. Well, last one here for me. Look at the camera. I want to give you an opportunity to shout out anybody, right? It's your last moment to the camera. So shout out to your mom, shout out to the family, shout out to whoever, right, that helped you get here and is a part of your journey.
First, I would say shout out to God, for, getting me through the things that he's got me through, being able to give me the mindset to, battle adversities, through the good and bad times. Shout out to my mom. She is my rock. She's always been there for me. Anything I need, anytime, I can call on her. She always, she's going to give me her last. Shout out to my whole entire family, really, they just been there the whole step of the way, really. And, I just want to thank everybody that's in my support system that just supported me and always spoke positivity in me and my story, because I've obviously been through a lot, ups and downs, injuries, things of that nature, but I've had a pretty good support system to, push me and, help me get back to where I'm supposed to be and above. So
journey's still going, man.
Yeah, still
Journey's still
Just
going. Got a lot to look forward to. Got a lot ahead of you. Shout out moms. Shout out moms.
Definitely.
Always.
Shout out moms.
Shout out moms. All right. Thank you so much for joining me and good luck the rest of the way.
Appreciate you for having me.